sketch the graph of f of x equals negative x plus 2 quantity squared. Okay, so first thing we want to do is compare this to the basic function, right? What basic function is this based on here, right? And this is a quadratic function, okay? So before we do anything, we should figure out, right, that this is going to have a u-shape, okay? So let's just draw x squared, okay? Once again, we call that the more basic function here, right? So x squared we know is our u-shape, goes through negative 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and we have our u that goes like this, okay? But now what we want to do is we want to compare it to this guy, right, and say, okay, what are the transformations that are happening here? So we see a couple things, right? We see this plus 2, which is inside the parentheses, okay? That has to do with the horizontal shift. But then what about this negative? What about this negative outside of the parentheses, okay? So this has to do with the reflection, okay? So then the question is, well, do we reflect this across the x-axis or do we reflect it across the y-axis, okay? So we can do a couple things here, but I guess we'll just plot some points and sort of see what happens, right? But then the key is, once again, eventually we want to be able to do this without plotting points, okay? Just using the transformations and use the basic function as a guide, right? And see then what the final graph should look like for the given function, okay? So when x is 0, right? When x is 0, we'll plug in the 0 here. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4, but there's a negative out front, right? So think about that. Instead of being a positive 4, we're going to be negative 4. Right? When x is a negative 1, negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1. 1 squared is 1, but that becomes a negative because of that negative outside, right? When we plug in negative 2, notice negative 2 plus 2 is 0, so we just get a 0 here. And we'll do one more point, okay? Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1, but because of this negative, right, we become negative 1. So let's take a look. Let's plot just these 4 points, and then hopefully we can notice something happening and sort of determine what this graph is going to look like here. So take a look. Right, these are the 4 points. I mean, we could pick more if we want, okay? But let's take a look. What has happened here to this graph, right? If we draw this, we should get a U-shape that, wait a minute, now it's upside down. Okay? So let's compare these two graphs, right? What has happened from the more basic graph of x squared, okay, to this guy right here? Now we know that this is the horizontal shift, right? So we can say, okay, this has shifted to the left 2 units. Okay? But notice, what does this negative do? Okay, what has this negative done outside of the function? Okay, and it has flipped over the x-axis, right? So we're going to shift the blue graph, right? We're going to shift the basic graph of x squared to the left 2 units, and then we're going to reflect this across the x-axis. So instead of being a regular u, right, this is going to be an upside down u.